Hmm? That's a huge question. Oh, so I have a question. So you have your podcast. Do you link it to Apple Music or not? So one of my contributors was asking because he's starting a new podcast, like how to do that to get it on Apple. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I'm guessing you watched the Saturday card. I actually bought the pay per view, so that's different. I never buy a pay per view. Like you know me, ever. Oof, yeah, to say the least. Yo, man, it's freaking cold in Toronto. I'm not happy about this. My birthday is coming up on Thursday. Like, this is not good. Mm. I hear you. I hear you. No, for sure. Like, if you wanted to just save that until the podcast, if you really want to discuss it, then I'm happy. Okay, 1 second. I think this works. Can you say something? Thank you. I mean, like, thank you for anybody who is obviously listening. I know this is a weird time right now, but at least we have some MMA content that we can talk about. And yes, if you want to follow me, it's at Monique Yip on Twitter, as well as at Combat Unwrapped and at Unwrapped Sports. I'm the social media director there. So if anybody wants to write for us, let me know. And thank you for having me, the Dainty Analysis. I mean, for me, it's actually a really sad emotion coming from the main card. And obviously, I'm sure you would touch on a few of the fights that would make me feel that way. But I want to give you the start in terms of like which fights you thought were, obviously really great. Personally, I think that Qatar is like my new favorite in terms of the featherweight division. I cannot even fathom. Like you can watch that, finish 1,000 times and it's still that good. Obviously, Zingano with that power, I already predicted that he was going to do something like that. I didn't know it was going to take 20 seconds though in the first round. The other fights though, like they obviously made me really sad, and I'm sure you would probably touch on that right now.
Between just the between I guess the late stoppages, just the drama between Tony and Gaethje. I wanted to start with the main event. Uh, Basically, when I was looking at it, going through the fights, yeah, I mean Tony looked the same way he always did, uh, and up to the point where his legs started getting kicked by Gaethje. I saw that he was able to take the punches well. He was able to like keep the pressure, but I don't know. It was maybe it's just a part of his style, but the throwing the sand in the air moment, and all these other things. That is kind of like a trademark of Tony Ferguson. I don't know if it really helped him with this fight.
I think that personally, I'm a huge fan of Tony Ferguson.
Mm,
Obviously, you and me wanted this Khabib versus Tony match for a long time. It's
yes.
been years, but obviously we've been talking about this pretty much, once every episode so far in the fighting roundtable. So I think that Tony Ferguson, I think that he prepared for someone else. Personally, I think that he was always preparing for Khabib
Mm-hmm.
in the last 4 years.
Right.
I think that no one could actually ever predict how much of the knockout power that Justin Gaethje has. Obviously, Tony Ferguson has quite the chin.
Yeah.
However, Justin Gaethje has pretty much, in my opinion, the best knockout power in that lightweight division.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's some of the reasons why he probably lost. Like, Gaethje had no pressure coming into this. He was not even supposed to fight this match.
Right.
It was supposed to be Tony versus Khabib.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Tony Ferguson had all that weight on him because a lot of people, including fans, including himself, including whoever it is on his team, they knew that he really needed to win this match because he had to face Khabib, or he wanted to face Khabib for the actual title to actually unify the belts. Now, I think that had something to do with what happened during that night. Gaethje literally was just throwing hands and feeling comfortable, and you could tell that.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't feeling any pressure. He wasn't feeling like he had to prove anything to himself. He won, and I'm kind of like, of course I'm shocked. Yeah. Other than that, of course, I'm a Tony fan. Throughout, Gaethje is very impressive, but I think that personally,
Mm-hmm.
if he is going to face Khabib, he's going to get his ass whooped because Khabib is more calculated. Khabib is more well-rounded, mm-hmm. in my opinion, less unorthodox, and Khabib can literally read what Gaethje is going to do. Mm-hmm. Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, two of the best in terms of striking and some type of TKO knockout power there mm-hmm. is.
Yeah.
I think that Khabib is going to maul him personally. But in terms of the fight, I was really disappointed. But things happen for a reason, right? So.
Mm. Yeah, I can argue that he'll probably be much more fearless than McGregor or Poirier. For one thing, Connor it doesn't. Connor really doesn't like chokes, and he kind of gives them up before they can really get synced in. I mean, for Khabib, he only had like a neck crank, which it really hurts, but it's not enough to take you out. As for Gaethje, I wonder how high caliber his D1 wrestling will be against Khabib. So, and I like that kind of dynamic he said during the press conference. It's going to be USA versus Dagestan. I mean, I kind of like the framework that he made, and that's why I think it will be much more competitive than we may let on.
Yeah, no, I think that here's the thing. Just Gaethje is someone that no one should overlook. At the same time, Khabib is on another level, especially when it comes to his wrestling. As anybody who's ever known anything about MMA knows that Khabib has fought bears. He has literally, proven otherwise to other fighters have pretty good wrestling, but I think his wrestling is on another level, honestly. And I think that because of that, you're right. It's going to be more competitive, but I think that Khabib is definitely going to come out on top just because of that reason alone, that he's more well-rounded and that he can pretty much see what Gaethje is going to do, in my opinion. He's been watching that fight so close. Yeah. If anybody knows them, on Twitter, he literally made comments about afterwards, Gaethje, comment, Tony Ferguson, keep your head up because your son's really proud of you. He's made comments like that, so obviously he's been watching, and I think that a lot of people are, because they're on the Gaethje bandwagon, not saying that he's not good or anything, but I think that because of that, that mauling from Tony Ferguson, that was quite impressive. People think that he's going, they should jump on that train. I'm like, guess what? Tony Ferguson is the only person that Gaethje's ever fought that was a super top elite contender for that belt. So I think that people should really realize that and see his records compared to Tony. Mm-hmm. And I was saying that, I know you've obviously tuned into my special with Robin Black on Instagram Live, but I was saying that he is not a loser. Tony Ferguson is not a loser. He had a 12-fight win streak, and I think that people should understand that that shouldn't be unannounced, and that the people that he's faced in that division are ridiculously talented. So that's all I gotta say about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's really foolish to just discredit Tony Ferguson after this match. It was just a styles matchup. I mean, both of them are the kinds of people to fight pressure with pressure, and that's what they did. I mean, it was just like how. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit with Cowboy when Tony fought him, and also when Cowboy fought Gaethje, and a little bit when Dustin Poirier fought Gaethje. He tried to meet the pressure head on with a pressure of his own. So I don't see why people would want to, I guess, discredit his entire style or his status as a top tier lightweight. It just seems like really short-sighted, and I think that's just what happens. Emotions are high, and the fact that the 12-fight streak is over, and might not have the same high as it was if he kept it intact, or even had a 13-fight win streak and then went to fight Khabib. Whether it's in July or September, he hasn't really confirmed that yet, because he said that in Ramadan because of Ramadan he would have to fight it in September. But yeah, right. I mean, I think we'll see Tony again. But I think he just has to heal up, mentally and physically, and see what he's going to do. So he'll just have to wait on the sidelines while Gaethje goes up and faces Khabib, whatever time that may be. And yeah, we'll see him again.
I think that just because I think a lot of people have a lot of scrutiny with these fighters. I think that people don't understand what's going on. Besides this pandemic, a lot of fighters have to deal with, including being able to train in that same gym or that same facility or those same conditions that they're usually, used to dealing with. And I want to say that it's definitely going to be Gaethje versus Khabib, because I have a really strong opinion on why it won't be Conor McGregor versus Gaethje, because I think that Gaethje, I think that Dana White, anybody in the UFC, as much as I love Dana White and anybody in the UFC, they know that Gaethje is going to maul Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is not a well-rounded fighter whatsoever. Gaethje is way more well-rounded, even though I don't think that he can beat Khabib because I think Khabib is way more well-rounded in
I-
general. So I think that that's the reason why that's not going to happen. And I don't know if anybody's thinking about that.
Right.
If anybody's thinking about that, I'm telling you, it's not going to happen because Dana White wants to protect Conor McGregor. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, and I think maybe as like a nice way to come back, I'm guessing he'll give him Ferguson.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, it could be like since they're both coming off losses and both were for like titles technically. I think it'll be a nice way to like do a title elimination. Like if Gaethje falls through, or if Khabib falls through, they can get the winner. Yeah, the person who wins between Ferguson and McGregor can get the winner, and whoever loses that can get whoever loses that match.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's really hard because, like, obviously, we can talk about UFC 249 and the future of the lightweight division for even the bantamweight division because of Cejudo supposedly retiring for a little bit. Now, I do want to ask you before I guess we move on to the topics of discussion that. What do you think about Dominic Cruz, making those accusations against Keith Peterson, the ref? Do you think that I personally think it's because he's being a sore loser at this point because obviously I know how much he wanted to win that fight and obviously win that belt and cement himself as the best bantamweight in UFC history. Now, do you think that it was in the moment or do you think that Dominic Cruz actually is like, because there's no proof, no offense to Dominic Cruz, that the ref was smoking or drinking before that fight?
Yeah, I just think it was just tensions were high. That's all that was. So yeah, it's not too much to think about it. Maybe it was just mad about the stoppage. That's all. I don't see why people thought there was like an ulterior motive. I mean, when you're coming back after 2 years from fighting and then coming back again only to like fall short all because of a stoppage that he saw was poor. I don't think it's nothing, no big deal, and I can understand where Dominic is coming from. So, with the drunk comments aside, I don't think it was. I don't think it was anything personal. He was just angry.
Yeah, I think that is so. But like a lot of people have been, I guess, criticizing because I understand how it looks. It's not really the best decision that Dominic Cruz has ever made. I know I love Dominic Cruz. He's my favorite bantamweight. He'll always be my favorite bantamweight of all time. And he's not usually. I was talking to Rob Black, right? We were talking about how it's not usually typical of him to be like that. So obviously, I think me and Robin came to the conclusion that Dominic obviously really wanted to win that match. I think eventually that we'll see either an apology or like some type of statement about what he said. But at the same time, I think that people have to realize that if you're not in that situation and you don't really want to win that title fight, then you can't really say anything, just like me and Robin Black have said, because, you're not in that situation. You don't know what's going through your head once you lose, especially because Dominic Cruz thought it was an early stoppage. Right? So it is what it is at the end of the day. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I think that, everybody should have more of an open mind because it's not as, clear cut just because he said the statement. Alex Hernandez got the same treatment, right? But because it's not Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz is a huge name. Alex Hernandez is a really huge, he's an up and coming lightweight, but he's not that top like legendary former champion caliber that Dominic Cruz is. I think that's the only reason why Dominic Cruz is getting a lot of flack personally, and I think that people should realize, we're all human. At the end of the day, we're not perfect. Yeah. Dominic Cruz is not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Yep. We get this way when we get really mad that we lost an important match. So that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah. So and I think that's all we can say about that. I think it will blow over. I'm sure Keith Peterson isn't too tore up about it. Probably forgot about it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So now to talk about the other fights. Which fight or fights during UFC 229 stuck out to you the most besides the ones we discussed?
Calvin Kattar versus Jeremy Stephens. Now, obviously, I'm not going to comment on the fact that Jeremy Stephens lost 4.5 pounds overweight. and obviously sacrificed 30% of his fight purse.
Yeah.
Calvin Guitar is literally my favorite up and coming lightweight. Like he's up there for sure. Everybody know he's up there. Like after this performance with that elbow, with that hook, I'm just like, you know what? I'm sold. I'm sold on him. He is so technical. And people don't understand, like, the reason why I picked him to win this fight was not because he was a favorite. It's because that Jeremy Stephens, unfortunately, even though Lil Heathen has done his work, you know, knocking out TKO people, you know, Calvin Guitar is literally super skilled. And, like, people don't understand how he's really good at, like, you know, maintaining that distance. You know, obviously when he hits people, it hits hard. He's calculated in his shots. And that's the reason why I picked this fight as one of my favorites. Because I remember just watching it, and then you just have that expression like, oh my God. Like, you know, when you watch Calvin Guitar do his thing, you know, Jeremy Stephens, people say that, you know, when you miss weight, you have an advantage. Like, I don't think that's true when you're facing a really, like, you know, skilled opponent like Calvin Guitar. Now, obviously, he obviously did not like that Jeremy Stephens has missed weight. If anybody has watched that post-fight interview right after the match with Joe Rogan, he expressed his, like, I guess, dismay with that. But you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because he has shown that he's skilled. He has shown that he can, you know, face one of the, I guess, the top fighters that has that kind of knockout or TKO power. And I don't know in terms of, like, how you thought of that match, but I was lit up with Calvin Guitar. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. It was really interesting to see Qatar fight. I say Cater. But yeah, does he say Cater?
I don't know. Everybody else says Cater. I said Qatar.
Right. Okay. So
we gotta get that right. We gotta get that right eventually.
Right. Oh yeah, he is definitely someone to fear, especially against. When I saw him against Zabit, I saw that he is he's a force to be reckoned with. I mean, why else would Zabit agree to only a 3-round fight for a main event?
Yeah, I mean, I've met Zabit, funny enough, in person. I've seen him fight during the Brooklyn card a few years ago, and damn, that's a really tough fight because I love Zabit. At the same time, like, Calvin Qatar Cater is really winning me over right now. Have you guys ever seen his highlights? It's ridiculous how skilled this man is. And I think he's scary. I think that people shouldn't underestimate him.
Right.
You know. Obviously, right now I'm having a few people actually listening into this interview right now, and they know how excited I am about Calvin Cater Qatar. I think that, honestly, Greg, like, this is something that people should not overlook. Like, Calvin Qatar Cater is not someone you should overlook. He has a lot of skill. Just because he's a little quiet, you know, he's not as, I guess, what you can say, like, he is quiet in the fight as well, because he is more like, a lot of people will come after him and he will counter and he will keep that distance and he will pick his shots. So I think that just because of that, you shouldn't overlook that. And yes, to everybody who's listening, I am really excited about Calvin Qatar and what he can do. And we'll see, because the beat is very, like, he can keep his distance, right? He obviously doesn't have knockout power. You know, he is exciting to watch and what he does and all the stunts that he does. But I think that he shouldn't overlook Calvin Cater Qatar, because he will catch him. Something, right? So that's how I'm gonna say right now.
All right, fair enough. So the one that stuck out to me was Francis Ngannou Rosenstrike, for however short that was.
20 seconds.
Yeah, it was so scary. Because I knew he had power. I didn't know he would, like, fold that quickly. I think maybe because he caught him the chin wrongly, and I think it just. I don't know if it just shows how underwhelming Overeem's punches is, or just how devastating Ngannou was, or maybe if it just shows that he just improved himself.
Yeah, I think, honestly, Ngannou has definitely improved himself. Anybody who's seen his match against Stipe would know that, obviously, Stipe literally hugged him for the whole match, right? Yeah. But at the same time, Ngannou knew because of that, he had to improve that takedown defense. At the same time, he had to be the aggressor, had to make that first, you know, kind of, like, nobody, it was called Ngannou versus Rosenstruck, or Biggie Boy, like I like to call him. Biggie Boy didn't really do much to really beat the aggressor. And so, like, Zingano's like, okay, I'm going to try to do this to him. And like, okay, it works, so I'm going to throw wild punches to him. And in 20 seconds, this man is gone. Now, Zingano, I've always thought he had a lot of power. You know, personally, I didn't think he was the most skilled fighter in the heavyweight. But honestly, a lot of people make that, you know, argument that heavyweights don't have to be that skilled. There's only a few heavyweights that will be great on the ground. Obviously, a lot of them are juggernauts. And they, you know, go ahead and trade punches or, you know, strike someone. Well, here's the thing: like, as much as I am super impressed with Zingano, I wasn't surprised. Sorry, that he actually had that knockout power. I knew he did, but like, obviously, it's not that fight was not about skill. Right. It was about a person.
That's
right.
fair.
No, honestly, like, honestly, anybody's gonna, you know, fight us against this, please comment and please, like, you know, inbox me or Greg. But honestly, it was not about skill. If you see all the strikes that were, you know, like, thrown with Zingano, it's all power. It was all about wild punches. It was definitely not about, you know, who was the most skilled. It was about the person and the fighter that made that first move, and the more powerful fighter, in my opinion, made that first move, and he just finished them in 20 minutes. Sorry, 20 minutes, 20 seconds.
Yeah. Oh man, it was exciting all around. But now he's just in a weird. Just in a weird limbo where he just has to stick around and just assassinate people while Cormier and Stipe get their mess together. I don't know.
I don't know what's going on with that, because, like, okay, I know, Greg, you've seen this. You did on Twitter, online. Did you see Cormier's face when Zingano, like, won that match in 20 seconds? Oh, that wasn't a good face. I was like, oh man, I'm scared for my life face. And I wouldn't blame him, because as much as Cormier is one of the, like, you know, I guess the most skillful heavyweights in that division, or in lightweight, whatever it is. And I think that if he is scared about the power and the wild punches that Zingano will make making that first move, then Cormier must think to himself, like, man, like, you know, this is not, I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was this good. You know, so, I mean, we'll see what happens. I honestly, I think with you, Greg, like, I know that Stipe is on the fence when it comes to, like, a lot of people are talking about how he's going to be stripped of the heavyweight belt. I personally don't think it's not fair, because of everything that's going on right now. That, you know, I understand he had an injury before he was healing from it. He was training at the same time. Like, just because of this pandemic doesn't mean he should be stripped of that belt. But that's just me personally.
I see what you mean. Yeah. He shouldn't be stripped. I mean, Daniel Cormier kept his. I believe he kept his title for a bit until they had to give it up. Oh no, that was for light heavyweight. So yeah, they gave it up just for the sake of the division, to keep it flowing. And because in light of recent events and a devastating event at that, I think it's a good reason why they shouldn't, like, worry too much that he has the belt held on. I mean, what are you gonna do? Do it in light of the pandemic? And it's not a good look. And the UFC's optics was, like, dubious from the start when they tried to get this whole thing set up. And to do this on top of that, I don't think they'll survive that. I mean, they will, but they're really gonna get side-eyed.
I think that, like, as much as I respect Dana White and that organization, I think that the first mistake that they made was not putting the precautions in place for this event.
Right.
Jacare Souza was tested positive just a few days before this event happened on Saturday. And for me, that makes me realize that, you know, obviously UFC has not taken that same precaution, because, you know, he was standing, he was fist pumping, you know, like, he was literally at the same place that so many other fighters were. So if any fighter is going to get coronavirus in the next few days, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you. And, like, that was really disheartening for me, because obviously I wanted these fights to happen. I know everybody technically who was a fan really wanted, and, like, deep inside, that wanted, like, you know, any fights to happen. But, like, you know, unfortunately, I don't think the UFC has taken the same precautions, you know, to really ensure that anybody who has coronavirus or anything like that is going to not, like, you know, be in the same premises. Obviously, Jacare Souza, same situation. If you guys seen his the face-offs and the weigh-ins and stuff like that, you've seen the same thing, like, that he was in the same place as many other fighters were. So that makes me kind of concerned. Stipe, I don't understand why the UFC would want to strip him, because it makes no sense, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pandemic. This is not somebody who is ducking any fighters. This is not someone who wants to, go into other, crossover into boxing or whatever it is, which he has said before, but he's not doing that right now. And so it makes no sense at all why, this is happening. I know, Greg, you agree with me on that. I just don't get it personally, because what else are you gonna do? You're in the pandemic. You are a volunteer fighter. You have a family. What makes it grounds for someone to strip? If anyone that UFC is going to strip the title of is going to be John Jones.
Yeah.
Honestly, because as much as I love John Jones, he has had so many offenses, one after the other, and the UFC hasn't done anything about it. So that's why I don't get personally why Stipe is in the talks about stripping his title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I think they'll keep that on pause for now. As for the other divisions, I think, everything is still chugging along with welterweight moving up. I think it's not as stuck on as the others. With that said, Kamaru Usman, I don't know if he's gonna have an opponent this year or later on in the fall, because Masvidal was taken somewhere else. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. So, yeah, it's just a weird limbo. I mean, back to business, huh?
No, for sure. It's all about business. It's all about the show that goes on, because it's all about making money at the end of the day when it comes to the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now I'll bring us to our topic of the day, seclusion in the fighting world. How did you feel about the venue? I guess being the way it is, like the nature of it, just the crew, the camera crew, the fighters team, the fighters themselves, the color commentary. It's just no one but them just watching this fight, and the audience, but only the people in this arena.
Yeah, I think that it offered a really different perspective that many, I guess, fans, if they haven't, watched UFC, they'll see a lot of different distractions. The fans obviously huge distractions. The fans could distract the judges, which has been done before.
Yes.
Right, and the judges are, I don't know if they were split apart, but I know the commentary, DC, John Anik, Joe Rogan were split apart, different feet. I think that it was kind of cool to see, because I know that different fighters, including Carla Esparza, has actually said in the post-fight conference that she heard DC saying, you should switch up your wrestling and your striking, something like that, right?
Yeah, and that was for another fighter too.
It was kind of cool, because I think she also commentated that she was used to Michelle Waterston's crew being very vocal about all the great things that she's done, which is not a bad thing whatsoever. But I think that it really offered a different perspective that I guess fans, when there's actually fans and a crowd in the audience, you won't get that, because you're so distracted. You're really just focusing on that match. You're not really hearing anything that's going on. And I thought it was really cool to hear the cornerman or any of the commentary actually affect what's going on in the fight, because you don't really hear that when you have a crowd or anything else, like a huge production going on in the stadium. So, obviously, like I said, I'm going to say this again. Anybody who thinks I'm all for this MMA event going on, I'm not, because of what's going on right now. But I'm obviously, as a fan, I'm really happy that this is going on. I'm not happy that at least one fighter, which I predicted was going to get COVID-19 or at least get affected or at least, get compromised for his match. And fortunately, the UFC is paying him and Uriah Hall for their absence for this matchup. But other than that, I think that it was actually pretty cool. It was a new perspective. I honestly, sometimes I don't like the fans being there, because they are distracting them or distracting the fight in a really negative way. But that's just me. I think it's pretty cool. But I'm pretty sure you probably had a take on that. I'm pretty sure you probably thought it was kind of different than what we're used to.
Oh yeah, definitely different. Only it was kind of in a cool way. I mean, I know the Francis Ngannou found it weird during his interview. Sam Alvey kind of was in his zone when he was doing those air high fives. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of Fight Club, where it's just the people involved are the ones that get to witness the fights that are going on, and it's kind of like its own like bubble. Like we're viewing it from the outside instead of like being viewed by people. Yeah. Oh, you know what it reminds me of? It's like that live TV show. Maybe it's kind of like yeah, I think it had to do with some kind of eliminator martial arts show where you get kicked off into like a pit. I can't remember the show, but it had like good technology. Like at the time, it was like a '90s show. Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of that, where it's like title like elimination or something like that. But yeah, it kind of felt like that. It was yeah, it was. I wonder if they're gonna keep that maybe as a platform for the future were for times where it's kind of like with the contender series where it just has the crew, the fighters, and the commentators just all in a bubble, having enjoying the moment for themselves, like having a different atmosphere. The only reason people watch contender series for now is because you can see like feature knockouts, featured submissions, and see the next star. But I think as the pandemic goes on, and they'll have Fight Island and have Florida to to open themselves
Kind of
up for
fall
their
back on.
fights. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and since they'll have that for their fights, you're gonna see that it's going to be a common thing where that atmosphere from the contender series and having it for the UFC at that big level, I think it's going to change how people view the fights. I think it's going to be like a more intimate. Yeah, that's the word. It's a more intimate setting. I think people will appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I think that honestly, I think in terms of the fighter's perspective, it's very individual because, like you said, there are a couple of fighters that was kind of weird,
Uh-huh.
and and I think like I guess as fans, like talking about this, it's kind of interesting to me because I don't necessarily have I've never experienced something like this.
Mm.
Even in contender series,
Right.
there were also crowds, not as big obviously as a UFC pay-per-view part
Right.
of the fight night card, but there were crowds, and so like for me this was the first time I've ever experienced, there was no crowds
Right.
whatsoever. It was only the commentators, the referee, and the fighters and the corners, and like that was it. And so I think that individually for fighters it's a thing, that is it, does it help? Some fighters, it does help that the crowd has their energy on them or against them. At the
Right.
same time,
Mm-hmm.
I think like people, I guess you could say like Dominic Cruz versus Henry Cejudo. To me, it didn't look like any of them were affected by the non-crowd.
Yeah.
Zingano versus Rosenstruck, like you said, like that could have affected, like you said, what's called Zingano thought it was kind of weird
Yeah.
or different. And at the same time, Carlos Esparza versus Michelle Watterson, that was something that Esparza kind of commented a little bit, but she wasn't entirely affected
Mm-hmm.
by it. She knew kind of going into this because there was no crowd that she probably knew how Michelle Watterson's corner was going to be. And because of that, I think that she was always just going to concentrate on what her corner and her coaches were going to do
Yeah.
at the same time. So that's just what I think. It's just every single fighter that's been in this losing, winning this pay-per-view card. Everybody is different, and some people get affected by the crowd. Some people don't. I personally think it's kind of cool, but
Right.
maybe I'm only one out of so many fans that think that having fans in the crowd is actually really better. But I think it was a really cool perspective, and obviously we're going to see that May 13th, May 16th. I
Yeah.
can't wait for
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I said, all I care about right now is that all the fighters stay healthy because we had one veteran that was, contracted with COVID-19, and all I care about is that everybody makes it out healthy and safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Man, it's just a weird time we're in. But yeah, I think that's what I think that's the hope they got from the fighters. Even though like things are rough, they're kind of seeing the audience at large and some of the people down at the arena. They're they're observing life through the fighters' eyes and seeing how like upbeat, how driven with purpose they are, and they're gathering strength from them. So I think that's why they are applauding of the UFC and even encouraging them, even when one of the venues fell through, and when they heard that Florida was opening up to them, and with this Fight Island stuff, they were encouraging them because not only did they want to, I guess, return to some kind of normalcy, but they admire the fighters for having this sense of fearlessness for them, putting aside that also they were fighting for money. But having said all that, they did like the fact that they were able to brave through it, and Tony Ferguson talked about this in his interview, that they were doing this all for them. They want to, I guess, show through their strength that they're willing to, I guess, brave through this pandemic and entertain people at the same time. So it was just like it was a wholesome moment, as wholesome as you can get in a sport like this.
Yeah, no, like I said, like it's funny because there's a lot of the fighters, especially on that card, that obviously have said something about this pandemic and people feeling safe and Happy Mother's Day, things like that. A lot of the fighters have obviously realized how different the situation is, and like you said, I think a lot of, including Robin Black, that has actually commented on this kind of point, saying that there's a lot of fighters that you will see them fight with more passion and more desire than ever before because of this whole pandemic, making it a little bit different for them and making it kind of hard at the same time to make these opportunities happen. So I think that most of the fighters, at least in the main card, for me at least, observing all of the cards, have been really, really excited. At the same time, they're obviously looking out for a lot of the people that have either gotten the illness or that they want to make sure that everybody is being safe. I think that the pandemic itself has actually made a lot of fighters realize how much they want to fight right now. Because a lot of people have been losing their jobs. A lot of people have lost their sponsorships, especially because of everything that's going on. It makes total sense,
right?
And I'm not saying that they shouldn't go and fight for whatever opportunity they want. I'm just saying, like, I personally, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if in the next few days we're going to get a few people saying that they've contracted the disease at the same time, right? So like that for me, it's really like a dilemma, because as a fan, I love seeing the desire, I love seeing the passion, I love seeing that kind of willingness to go through everything else despite what's going on. At the same time, I can't help but think, as a human being, what we're going through is really devastating. And so, I hope that everybody's safe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, and I think that's why this is fascinating to me. Just what the seclusion, what it did to us psychologically. I mean, and especially to fighters, even though we're kind of like panicking, even though some of them not. Like, I don't even want to get into that, but but as for the fighting world, I mean, they're coping. They're even like being quite resilient to like the hysteria that's going on, and I think that's why they see it as a source of strength. Like, what do you think like goes on in a fighter's mind? What does it say about the fighting spirit that they're willing to like go on in a world like this, in an event like this, putting aside like fighting for money?
I think that this whole pay-per-view that just happened has nothing to do with money, because of the pandemic is just so big enough that, like I said before, that a lot of the fighters that I've experienced, just looking at their pay-per-view and looking at their interviews and looking at their embedded, everything like that, that they're they're not doing this for money. They want to show that they can overcome this adversity.
Yeah.
This pandemic is huge. It's something that the world has never actually experienced in a long, long time or ever before. And I think that what goes through the fighters' mind, I think that they want to prove that they can overcome this. They can take the precautions, or even take that risk. A lot of people say that Tony Ferguson, when he was at the hotel, he had a lot of people around him that were obviously not 6 feet apart. Now, like, I'm not going to criticize anything like that. Obviously a fighter, they sign up for this fight, they know what they're going to go into, and part of it is that pandemic that's going on, knowing that they have to be 6 feet away from people, or knowing that the UFC is going to hopefully enforce that policy within them. I don't know what's going on in their head. I just know that in their head they said that they really want to fight, because it's scary. Imagine, like, if your main job is to fight, and then all of a sudden this pandemic happens, and you don't know when the next time you're gonna fight is. And so when Alex Hernandez, when Drew Dober, when anybody else who was in that May 13 card got that call, you don't think that they're gonna jump on that, because you don't know when the next time you're gonna fight is. Alex Hernandez, I know personally, said that he thinks that, like, not many people know how much sacrifice and hard work it takes to actually go through a camp and go through training, and just to find out that has been scrapped because of a pandemic makes you still be sad. It doesn't matter how crazy bad this pandemic is. It still makes you really sad that you can't do the sport that you love the most. And that's my whole point, is that I think that a lot of fighters, even though it is really sad and they have said a lot of things about being safe, they will go through with something like this. Because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. All that matters is that they can do the sport that they love, because no other athlete in other sport is actually doing what they love, right? So they have a really clear advantage.
Right. And I think, and it changes the dynamic of what fighting is about. And I think maybe it comes back to the roots of what fighting is about. It's just mano y mano, you and me, let's fight. And the audience doesn't have to do anything doesn't have to do anything with it, at least for the time being. And Anthony Pettis talked about it a little bit during his interview, because he usually fights to, I guess, get a rise out of the crowd, because he feeds off the crowd. But I wonder if that separates fighters that like to feed off the crowd with fighters that will, like, give 100% no matter what, kind of like how Gaethje did. So I was wondering if there's going to be a shift in the type of fighters that want to get into the UFC, if they were, like, inspired by how fearless and how driven the fighters were.
I think that I don't know if me and you were fighters and then we were up and coming and trying to get into the UFC. We would be inspired by that. I think, like, there's always that humanistic aspect. Like I said, that this is a pandemic, this is serious, this is not a joke whatsoever. There was a fighter during that pay-per-view that got COVID-19, him and his team, and they had to pull out. So obviously there's no joke when it comes to that. I think that there's a lot of fighters that were on that card that obviously do feed off the crowd, but they at the same time they kind of proven that they don't need the crowd. They at least have a really great performance. Whether they lose or not, it doesn't matter, because at the same time they still perform the best that they can during the circumstances. And I think that's the reason why me and you were talking about earlier, who is a loser, who is not a great fighter after this pay-per-view. I'm saying to people, like, you don't understand how much work and how much time and how much pressure it takes for a lot of these fighters to be a certain place. Like Michelle Watterson, she just lost against Carla Esparza. She lost against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, one of the best strawweights ever. You don't think there was a lot of pressure there? You don't think that she obviously feeds off the crowd? Of course she does. If anybody has seen any of the highlights, you know that it's true. But I think that at the same time, with this whole, like, fan aspect eliminated, it really makes you realize that some of these fighters, they don't need that. They still can perform, even though they lose or win, right? At the end of the day, they can still perform.
And it kind of and it just reminded me of maybe that kind of being able to perform without the crowd. That's kind of ingrained into them with training. Like I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, whether or not people are watching you, you would still perform during practice, because no one's watching you except if you're screwing up, if you're doing something wrong to your jiu-jitsu buddy. But other than that, you train to, I guess, to practice on stuff, to work on yourself, to, I guess, push boundaries, then push further boundaries and reach higher heights than you ever thought you could. And that's why you could see that translate sometimes into the ring. I mean, into the octagon.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the basics, right? The basics is that you go to the gym, you go to whatever respective gym that you train in, and you still train without anybody watching sometimes,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's about like, do you really need that aspect? I don't think many of the fighters do.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's not like it's necessary though. They only win
Mm-hmm.
because the fighters, what's it called, the fans have said anything. A lot of people would talk about Dan Hooker, Paul Felder. We've obviously talked about that in a few episodes before. My point is that like
Mm-hmm.
Dan Hooker, I don't think he was supposed to win that fight, but I think that the crowd, the crowd has said otherwise, and the crowd has obviously affected a lot of the judges
Right.
and what they're saying. I don't know if there was a
Mm.
crowd there that it would affect the judges. I think that the judges, they made certain decisions that they thought were correct. So
Right. Yeah, so that's gonna affect the psychology of the judges. Yeah, and I think we went into that in like oh man, it's been a while since we did that episode. I think it was like
I
two,
know.
4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah, we talked about audiences or like field participation, or I think it was like unwritten rules in the fighting world, where we talked about the audience participation. But now with the seclusion era, I that's kind of like going by the wayside, where we won't see a lot of that. And I think judges will be maybe comparatively more impartial, although I don't think it'll be by much.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it would actually affect it that much. It's just honestly like judging, like I said with Brown Black, because like I think like we basically said like everyone could be upset over what was decided among two fighters,
Mm-hmm.
making a split decision. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because if a fighter has swayed 2 or 3 judges,
Right.
that's it. We don't have any say in that, and I
Yeah.
honestly believe in that a lot. But when you talk to fans that are
Mm-hmm.
hardcore, they obviously believe in what they want to believe in. Like I am the same way. Guess what? I'm not a judge. I'm not going to sway the judges to making that decision that's correct in
Right.
my mind. At the end of the day, we can't do anything about it. So it's all about opinions. And like, I don't know if that sounds harsh to anybody right now, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is the reality of it.
Mm-hmm. So when I was now I'm just looking at the other fight cards that will be taking place. I think that they'll follow the same route, and I think you'll see that same kind of solidarity. Any fights you'll be looking forward to in the future besides the card on Saturday?
I mean, yes, of course. May 13th is the day before my birthday, so of course I'm gonna be looking forward to that fight
Happy
night.
early birthday!
Oh yeah. I mean, I hope so. We'll see. Okay, so I'll obviously look forward to Drew Dober versus Alex Hernandez. I know Hernandez is obviously a huge, favorite because of his ranking, but at the same time, I think that Drew has what it takes. After watching him 2 times in the last 2 years, I think that he has what it takes to win against Alex Hernandez. No offense to him, no offense to anybody who's training there because I know them. But anyway, the obvious Glover Teixeira versus Ed Smith. I love Anthony Smith's heart. I love his heart. I think it's literally my kind of heart if I was a fighter. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I think that Glover Teixeira is a monster. I know he's a veteran,
Right.
but at the same time, he is like last few fights. I know you've been watching.
Yes.
He's been proven that he is still that same monster as he was how many years ago. He
Yeah.
is, what, obviously more older than Anthony Smith for a
Yeah.
couple of years, but at the end of the day, I think he's gonna win because of his fight style and he's very aggressive. No offense to Anthony Smith and anybody who obviously likes Anthony Smith. So those are the two ones that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look forward to. I think there was Gadea versus Hill. I
Mm-hmm.
believe, I don't know if that was on Wednesday or Saturday, but I'm looking forward to that because I think Angela Hill has been proving herself recently. Gadea, I haven't been seeing her lately because of obviously what happened with Alexa Grasso in that last it's supposed to be fight attempt that she's supposed to have. So Gadea is a great fighter, but she gasses out in the first and second round. I've known that from experience watching her as well 2 times. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think Angela Hill is. I think Gadea is the more skilled fighter, but I still think that Angela Hill, like, she picks her shots, she picks her opportunity. Obviously, have you seen her last matchup. So I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what's gonna happen, but I know that Gadea, please do not get if you want to win this fight. That's all I'm gonna say right now. Those are three probably in the top of my head that I'm actually looking forward to that I can remember right now. So I mean, what about you? Do you have any other fights that you're looking forward to in the next, I guess, couple of days to Wednesday?
Let me see. I know Bellator has a few fights. I don't know if they canceled theirs yet. I hope to see because I know Venom Page. Yeah, Michael Venom Page was supposed to be fighting soon. Let me see.
I mean, like Robin Black, obviously, like he's not a reporter or anything. He's just saying that they might start up in July. We don't know yet. Like
Yeah.
that's a maybe. That's not a concrete statement. But obviously, with Robin working for them,
Right.
he has a little bit of intel. But obviously, we're not saying this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right now.
We don't want to promise anything. Oh yeah. I forgot Julie. No, not that one. I'm trying. Oh yeah, I see. I'm trying to remember. There was a Pitbull fight that was announced. I'm trying to remember when that was.
It was against a Pedro Carvalho. That's the one that was supposed to happen, but obviously because of the whole pandemic, that Grand Prix has been the Grand Prix has been stopped for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, Bellator. I'm not going to comment on anything just because I don't know anything that's concrete right now. To actually, like get excited about it. No offense to anybody who obviously is a fan of Bellator. There's a lot of great fighters on there. There's a lot of great fighters. Benson Henderson was supposed to fight in Chicago in June, so we don't know what's going to happen with that against Michael Chandler. So, we can talk about that as well. But I think that you and me both, like, we just want to... I don't like keeping my hopes... like personally. So I just wait until the fight day. I just wait until the fight day and see if it actually goes through.
Right. I saw that. Yeah, and I remember that Bader had his fight canceled. So I hope they bring that in the fall because I see that Queeley versus Pitbull was announced for Dublin. Pardon me. Yeah, and that's gonna be in October of this year. Man, all the way to October. It really screwed them.
We gotta wait, man. It's only May. You know what I
mean? It is what it is. So we'll be waiting for that to happen. But
for sure.
And until then, I'll just be looking at other sports to see if there's going to be other things that'll be going on. Because I have like a kind of a nerd obsession with tech fights, like something like BattleBots or what's it called? I think Megabots, where they had like these 15-foot tall mechs and they're gonna fight. But I don't know if that's going to get up in the air because they had like a promo fight that was like really really staged. It was cringy, but I hope they bring it back again. And also,
it's funny because you obviously are into other sports that do not involve actual either human beings or like athletes right now. I wish I had. Trust me, I've been where's baseball? Well, I want to see spring training. I want to see practice too. Right now. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I watched the League of Legends scene for the. Yeah, I watch League of Legends for their esports, and it's really fascinating. I haven't been to recently because I've been swamped with work, but they're still keeping the social distancing thing, which makes sense because it's all online. So I think they can do that pretty easy.
I think so too. Obviously, this is different when you actually have teams or players that have to be there to make it happen. So I mean. Anybody who is a huge sports fanatic, I feel your pain. As much as I love MMA and that's my favorite sport, it's obviously a lot dangerous right now. Making these fight cards happen. Like I said, I don't care as long as everybody is healthy and stable. That's all. That's all I care about. At the end of it, doesn't matter if I like fighters or not. All I care about is that they're healthy and stable.
Yep, me too. So anything else you want to cover pertaining to this topic of seclusion? Besides what we're doing?
I mean, obviously we can break down how crazy it is to have these fights happen when obviously people are in proximity to each other.
Yeah.
And I love, trust me, you know that I'm a huge fan of all these fights happening, but it's just the fact that everything's going on right now, and the fact that one of the fighters who's a huge veteran the sport has gotten COVID-19, it makes me realize, like, this is not a joke. This is like, Dana White, I don't know what the hell you're trying to do right now to make sure everybody is safe down, because obviously one part of it wasn't working. You weren't isolating anybody for 2 weeks to actually get tested at the end of the day before entering fight week. So like when that happened, it made me kind of like realize, like, this is not a joke.
Yeah.
This is something that no one can really fix and prevent. The only way you can prevent that is by isolating someone and to be tested before you get to Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah. And Florida, I'm not gonna say bad about it. It's kind of nuts that they're allowing something like this, personally. Mm-hmm. Because it's not like any cure has been put into place, or there's not any precautions that any state or any province in Canada or anybody anywhere in the world is putting in place. So Fight Island, like I said, all I care about is everybody is healthy and happy. That's all I care about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's supposed to, like Dana White said, it's supposed to happen at the end of June, because they're obviously building a lot of infrastructure right now, and a lot of like the training, I guess with the gyms, hotels, all of that. They're making all of that happen right now. And
the infrastructure is being worked on.
Right. I didn't, like I said, I obviously have no idea what this disease is going to be. I don't know how far it's been carried throughout different countries. At the end of the day, everybody please be healthy and safe. And I obviously want to see fights so bad. Me and you, obviously we're fans. And it's hard, right? Because we want to make sure everybody is okay. But at the end of the day, like, we still want to see these fights, because no offense to any other sport, this is the only sport that's been really capitalizing on that. And like, that's what I want to talk about, is because the UFC, I know they know that they're the number one promotion in MMA, but at the same time, like, I feel like they think because of Uncle Dana, I love you, do not take offense to that. I think that they want to make a business move with me, obviously making this pay-per-view, making the fights on the 13th and the 16th, making fights on June, whatever it is, right, for Fight Island. And at the same time, like, I don't know if it's the smartest move. It's all about a business move at the end of the day. Yeah. And I'm sure you understand that, from a fan perspective.
Yes, absolutely. So,
and that's all. Like, honestly, that's all I wanted, because I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea of either both of us to like think that we're all for these fights going on, like, without any kind of caution.
Yeah. We have a conscience too. Even fight fans have consciences.
No, we. I mean, we and you do. I don't know about anybody else. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say that right now. Obviously, there's one question I did want to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that there was this rumor going around that Cody Garbrandt is going to move down to flyweight after his fight against Rafael Sansel.
I heard that too.
So, what do you think do you think that he's doing this? This is what I'm going to say.
Wait, Rafael Sansel's flyweight too?
No. They're doing the bantamweight fight, and then he's going to move down. That's what
okay. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that too.
I'm gonna let you speak on that before I have to rant about the topic.
Man, I just hope it helps his chin, because hopefully he has something for that, because it reminds me of James Vick when he moved up to 170. It might give him like some strength, but if there's like some things that he didn't fix up, I think it's just gonna repeat the same fate.
Right. Now, okay, so that's obviously a really good point. If anybody doesn't know who I'm talking about, Cody Garbrandt was a former bantamweight champion. He is current member of Team Alpha Male, and he has a lot of fighters that he does not like who has faced them, including TJ Dillashaw and Dominic Cruz. Now, what I think about this is that there was someone that pointed out this point to me, that there was a chance that a lot of fighters that are not winning in that division, they will go down, because they think that if you go down, there's more opportunity, that you're more powerful, because obviously yourself in bantamweight or whatever weight class it is. So I think that personally, there is no champion right now in
Right.
flyweight.
Yeah.
Absolutely no champion, especially when Cejudo got stripped. There's no champion whatsoever. Now, obviously, here's the thing: I love Joseph Benavidez, but he got beat by Davison, and Figueiredo did not make weight on the one day that was probably the most important to him, which I've obviously said in a couple of episodes before. But at the end of the day, there's no champion in that division, so
Yeah.
obviously, I think that Cody is underestimating a lot of flyweights because there's a lot of amazing, powerful knockout power flyweights that are really fast and are really technical that I think that he has to really reevaluate just because you think that there's no champion in that division. Also he does not want to face Cruz. He does not want to face what's called Sterling, Morales,
Yep.
Aldo.
Yep.
Obviously, Cejudo, if he's not retiring or whatever it is, he
I
does
don't know if
not
he
want
is
to
or not.
face. Right? I don't know what the hell that about, honestly. So I'm not gonna freaking like comment on that. But I think that he knows what's coming into the bantamweight division, and he thinks that he has a really good chance at flyweight to become the champion. What he should know that have a rude awakening, especially when it comes to Figueiredo. And I don't like defending Figueiredo, but I'm going to defend him for the fact that he has the best knockout power in that division. Like for me, do you think that he's ducking? Do you think that it's because that he's lost 3 times after winning against Cruz is the reason why that he's down to another division?
Oh, yeah, I agree. So, yeah, I think he'll, yeah, as long as he, I guess, just goes through the motions and, like, crosses his T's, dots his I's, he'll be fine. So, and I kind of like his chances at, flyweight, because you don't see a lot of people with, knockout power. Yeah, Davison Figueroa is, like, only one. And the other guy that looks like him. Yeah, and Benavidez, with his wrestling and his power. Yeah, and his power, because he was able to go toe to toe with Dominic Cruz at one point. So
Oh yeah.
so yeah, not a lot of power punches. So if he's added to the mix, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to talk about it because I know that it's a really not controversial, but it's kind of like okay, well, a lot of people could think that he's ducking a lot of fighters from bantamweight or that he's an opportunity
Yeah.
at flyweight. There's a lot of people that say like, oh, other people like what Essen Barbosa, say Aldo, recently that have obviously moved down a division to I guess find success. So I think that there's something about that, but at the same time, it's kind of like about at the end, someone wants to win
Yeah.
belt, you know. So that's just how I see it. But
Yeah.
if you have any other I guess topic, I think UFC 249. I mean, honestly, I want to talk to you about Tony just because like I said, I've already covered the fact that I don't think he's a loser. I think that he's obviously lost that
Yeah.
streak. But here's the thing: anybody who disagrees with either me or Greg, please look at the caliber of fighters that Tony and Justin Gaethje has ever faced. Justin Gaethje has never faced anyone as remotely elite as Tony Ferguson, and Tony Ferguson has faced a couple of fighters that are more, either well-rounded or elite than Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje, I pray to God that you do not get knocked out, but you will get at least submitted or dominated by my man Khabib coming up, whatever that's going to happen with September. They're probably going to happen. I'm sad, honestly, because we're not going to get Khabib versus Tony anytime soon.
Right.
Personally,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. And literally, if the UFC is going to make that, I love that fight. It doesn't matter because that's not the right fight to make. Justin Gaethje is the what's called interim lightweight championship, and obviously, if you're gonna put that with Conor versus Justin, I'm gonna tell you right now, as long if Khabib is sick, then make that fight. If Khabib is not sick, then do not make that fight. You have to make Justin versus Khabib. As much as I wanted Tony versus Khabib. I don't know. Maybe for you, Greg, did you ever feel that disappointment that when you seeing Tony getting mauled?
Yeah.
By Justin Gaethje, did you see that dream of that ultimate lightweight fight just slip away altogether?
Oh yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, it was just an opportunity to witness history, but it's just goes to show, I don't really I entertain a superstition, but I don't really like believe in it that much. But yeah, it's just so unfortunate just to see how many times this was tried and to see it fail, and then ultimately to never have it happen at that highest level, to have it at that peak. It will happen, but I just don't. And again, it just won't have that same, like, it won't have the same stakes.
So what I want to say is that who do you think is a more deadly opponent to Khabib, which is obviously my favorite fighter and the lightweight championship of the world? Who do you think is more, I guess you could say, deadly? Is it Gaethje or is it Ferguson?
Both present different challenges. I think Tony is well rounded in everything, so I think he'll attack Habib with everything. Gaethje is just dangerous with his hands, and he's calculated when he does it. And as we've seen with Tony, he compounded that point. Um, I think he won't be as afraid to get on the floor with him because of his D1 wrestling. So that's why he's going to, I guess, not be afraid of like of throwing hands with him. I think that's what Habib depends on sometimes, because of his like completely dominant wrestling. He expects people to have a wider stance so that they can defend the shoot, and then that's when he just wails on them because they leave themselves open like that. So yeah, I think Gaethje will give him more trouble,
Okay.
despite Habib improving his boxing game. And as for Tony, I think it'll be an interesting budding of grapplers.
So like I'm gonna have to slightly disagree with you.
Okay.
No, we don't. We never disagree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, go ahead.
The only reason why is obviously I understand the point. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
Gaethje is amazing at striking. He is like the person that has the great takedown defense at the same time, best knockout power in that division. However, what I think is because Khabib has faced something kind of similar in terms of like style,
Yeah.
in Poirier and in Connor, two of the best in terms of, they're either TKO or knockout power, and so in middle hook, right? So that's the reason why I think that Tony poses a bigger threat to him because he can predict, in my opinion, what Gaethje is going to do. You know, he might have to like play cat and mouse and do something and then have Gaethje counter, but he has been through that similarly. I'm not saying that Gaethje's power is nothing to talk about. I'm saying that he's literally have faced similar people and that he's more calculated than Tony Ferguson when it comes to facing someone like Gaethje. Now, Tony Ferguson, I'm still mourning the loss, right? I'm still mourning the fact that we're not gonna get. I'm like no joke. I'm still mourning the loss against Khabib. At the same time, I
Yeah.
understand Tony Ferguson. There are no excuses. I do understand where he's coming from, though, because he was obviously training for someone else,
Yeah.
and that you can never predict that kind of knockout power.
Yeah.
And Tony Ferguson was not knocked out. He was rocked, but he is a tough, motherfucker, pretty much,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like basically, like I think that Khabib, he's been through. I guess you could say fighters that have tried to submit him.
Yeah.
Dustin Poirier, obviously a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were betting so hard on Conor McGregor versus Khabib.
Yeah.
Conor, I'm not even going to dismiss it. He has amazing length.
Right.
I'm never gonna dismiss that. But it's not good enough when you have someone that's well rounded as Khabib. Now, people think that he can't strike. Have you seen the fight against Conor?
Right.
He outstruck him. Ground and pound everything. So I'm trying to say, like, I think that Tony makes a better kind of threat because it's just that. No offense to Gaethje, I don't think you're well rounded. I don't care if you have the takedown defense. You are facing against the best wrestler in that division, one of the best in UFC history. So I think that Gaethje, you better watch out because it's not gonna be easy. Khabib knows what he's doing. Khabib can last 5 rounds. You've last what? Maybe 4 rounds lately because of.
Right.
Other than that, you have not lasted that many rounds against Khabib, who is an elite wrestler, who is obviously he can strike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that many people don't understand. Like, he actually can. If you actually watch his other fights,
But
he outstruck the best wrestler. It was called the best striker. That a lot of people think. I don't think he's the best striker. Conor McGregor. I don't think he is the best. But like, I think that. So if he can outstruck him, then I think that, like, for me, that will, you know, be the determining factor, and we'll see. So I mean, like, we'll disagree on that. Obviously, I love both of them. I love Gaethje. I love.
Yeah, I understand.
You know? It's just that Tony Ferguson is so unorthodox.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that Khabib has probably never faced, at least as much as how unorthodox Tony Ferguson is. Justin Gaethje is kind of predictable, in my opinion. He is obviously, like, he obviously waits, counter striker, a little bit aggressive here, there, you know, takedown defense. I think that Khabib has faced someone like that before, so I think that, you know, obviously a lot of people, I guess, they're messaging me that are listening to this podcast, they agree that Khabib definitely strike, but that's not even the point. I think the point is that he can literally, like, you know, read Justin Gaethje. I think that, you know, he's faced a lot of people that have knockout power before, been rocked by a couple of people like Poirier that have knockout power before. So I think that, you know, at the same time, like, Tony Ferguson, I wish he were to fight Khabib. You know what I mean? I wish. But it is what it is at the end of the day. So I have to agree that I think that Tony's going to face a bigger challenge than Justin Gaethje. No offense if you're listening to right now.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I see what you mean. But yeah, so I guess we can leave it at that, and we'll see how it unfolds in the coming weeks.
Okay, so, like, obviously I have to do a shout out because you always have me on your podcast, which I totally appreciate. So if anybody has Twitter, please go and follow the Dating Analysis. That's my host right there of the Fighting Roundtable. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, the Analysis. Said the Fighting Roundtable. Search that and you'll find it on YouTube. Please subscribe and you'll see all the rest of the episodes that we've been covering, different type of topics that have been interesting that many people don't talk about right now. So obviously, please do that. And obviously, in Facebook, you have a Facebook page for the Dating Analysis. And that is pretty much